All right, let's talk through where we're at today. So, got this guy in here test fitting. He's got like one finger, one hand worth of clearance here, but this is bottomed out or very nearly bottomed out. So, I could also put the fuel cell up on some spacers to try and gain a little bit of extra clearance. And then up until probably I can raise it about an inch, like that. All right, so major issues. I wasn't too happy with the way that these radiator brackets came out. Um, Things just weren't quite aligned. I mean, it works. It's pretty solid. It's in there. It's not going to move, but I could have engineered it better. I might have been a little premature on putting these nipples on the sides. So I did have to block off the old ones because they were a different size than I was using, or at least cut them off and change them. But I was thinking I needed nipples on the sides so that I could clear going around the panhard rod. But with the radiator raised to this height, which is still pretty far below the window line, which is along the bottom of that flat there. So it's still lower than the window line, but higher than the engine right here. So I could have left a nipple here. It would be a little challenging if it was sticking out here, because it would have to snake down over top of this moving area and connect. This one would have been ideal, right? I could have just come right in here, bam, right into the top. Okay, and then I would snake it through there. Or actually, probably snake it through underneath that bar and underneath that bar, and come up a little bit closer to where the top of the bag is. So it would be coming from like down here, down there, and then coming up and in like that. So what I'm gonna have to do now, if I don't take this thing back out to re-weld anything, I need to make a 90 off of this nipple. So one way of doing it is like a preformed piece of radiator hose or heater hose at this size. It would be called a heater hose, or even some other kind of silicone multiply line like they might use on a intercooler. Make it tight enough 90 so that I could come in here and do this. I don't want to have it on the outside. There's just too much motion going on, and the wheel is right here. So I got these end links, I guess you'd call them, mocked up in there right now. And this area is just going to be like motion and levers and arms going around and pivots and swing. So I need to keep the soft bits on the other side of this wall, which means coming in here and hopefully trying to do some kind of 90 and then meet up with it like that. So I'm going to try to locate something that has a tight 90. I thought about, on the front, I'm using some old NASCAR lines that have nice tight AN16 fittings, and I know you can get nice full flow AN16 fittings for a 90 here, but then I have to go through the expense of like finding hose ends that connects AN16 to this barb again, and I'd have to cut this off and basically weld on AN16 male bung. So that doesn't really buy me anything but a lot of work. Um, what else is going on? I think these end link bars that I got for this 7/8 inch size bar, I think I only had one. I guess these are the arms. Usually the bar and then these arms are like molded as one on a streetcar. But since these are separate pieces, these I guess are the end links, the dog bones or whatever that connect from top to bottom here. And I need to make a bracket down here for something like this one. I guess I'll just keep this length. It is a little bit tilted right now because I have, I guess the way I have this jacked up here, I would expect this side to be a little bit lower, but for some reason this side seems a little bit lower. I'm not sure if it's binding on something or what. Probably not. It's probably just my imagination. But anyway, let's see. These end links, I need a bracket for this. I'll keep this one because it's a decent length and it is adjustable somewhat. This one I guess could just be fixed. And then I might have to do something with this bend. Either I would put the link on this side of the bend so that this clears, and then this won't stick out too far where it's going to touch the tire, and then down to another bracket down there. But this side doesn't need to be adjustable as long as one side's adjustable. And then I also have like different holes. This thing could be put in the press and like unbent. Same with this one. I think this right now would be like uncomfortably close to the back of the wheel, right? So I could swap this around so that there's not as much protruding on this side, and just put this on this side. All right, so what else? I got these tacked in here. These bars are going to be for the air compressor tank right over here, this guy. And I mocked it up so that this crossbar and then the one underneath it, this box tubing, I laid a piece of flat against here, and then I let the tank slide down until it touched that flat. So there should be because I wanted some clearance with relation to the radiator so that I could get it in and out and deconstruct this assembly without having to take the air tank out. So this is as far back as it should go, and at that level it's actually lower. It's lower than the window still, surprisingly. So it's still pretty low. I think so. And it could be moved up because it does stand tall in the brackets, those brackets there. So it would clear the top of the pumpkin here, even though when it's kind of fully up. So that's okay. I think I will stand. The air pump up a little bit, or sorry, the fuel tank. I think I will put some spacers underneath those and then raise it up if I can, and get that sump away from the U-joint. I can pretty much cap those off though. Because I'm going to go with an in-tank setup, which will be right over top of here like this. So I'll have to cut a hole, weld a ring on here, and then I can bolt that assembly in there that holds pumps. Okay, and then the fuel lines will kind of go off to the side and down around. The return may come into that vent line there. That vent line there will have a see, these vents don't have any. I had this discussion with Grok earlier today. These are just simple vents. There's no rollover. There's nothing rollover about these guys. Okay, so this is actually just a. It is just a cap. So this would seal it. These are AN10 or 10AN, whatever. Same as the ones on the sump. So these might just stay capped off, and then I have an 8AN in-tank vent. So I punch a little hole here, put the vent line in there. It has a rollover valve inside, and I'll take a hose off that 8AN hose, and I will wrap that up around the roll cage here, still on the inside, but then it'll go down around and then lower than the fuel tank over there by the air compressors, and then it'll exit somewhere over there. That way, if the car was ever on its side somehow, it's just some sort of technique they use on like off-road vehicles, so that if you're not fully upside down, if the check valve doesn't work, at least the gasoline won't be siphoning out. So it goes up and around, but yeah, so I'll do that. It won't be a huge hose, but it'll be enough. It'll be more than what's needed. Most people just do the check valve, and then plus it'll get the fumes kind of hopefully routing out away from the car somewhere. Let's see, and away from where there's sparks potentially. So what else? I need to cut holes in the frame rail to be able to put these hoses inside of. Make brackets for the seats, for the passenger seats. I'll need to mock up the driver's seat again, and then go on YouTube. Maybe I'll do that today while I'm inside. It's like finding out what kind of harness brackets that I need to fabricate, so that there's mounting holes for the 5-point harnesses on all three. So maybe I can even sketch those up and then pump them out in the 3/16 steel plate. What else? Yeah, then I'll have places to mount things. Let's see, I got to make sure whatever I do, don't interfere with the clearance here, so that I can get the fuel tank in and out. So, because if I put any kind of bar in between here, I'm not going to be able to get the fuel cell out. And it would be nice to just take out 2 seats rather than to have to take out all 3 seats. So that'll be good. Is there anything else? I thought about putting a return line kind of like down here on the side somewhere, but I think I will have it come up high for the return. I'll just reuse one of the vent lines as a return. You don't want to return it directly in the sump, and I don't want to use those connections around the drive shaft anyway. So the more challenging hose, which one is it? I guess this one I thought was going to be more challenging because it's slower, right? Because it has to come up, the hose has to come up and then route its way over around here. Because I think I could just zip tie the hose to kind of follow this bar and then it's in no danger of hitting here. I was gonna have a bounce pad or something around here. I'm not sure if I'm still gonna do it there or not, but basically some sort of heavy duty piece of foam that allows it to kind of bottom out. Yeah, I'm not sure if that's where I'm going to do it or not. Ideal place is right where the bags are. A non-ideal place is up further up on the chassis where the arms are touching. But basically, something to bounce off of instead of bouncing off the internals of the bag and the internals of the shocks. Some kind of heavy-duty bump stops. Just reuse those. So since the last video, the other thing I did was I boxed in down here. I put this 1/8 inch wall. I think it's just a 1.5 inch box tubing, but this ties in down here off the panhard bar mount, and so the compression or tension on this panhard bar is no longer just a rotational force against this weld, but it'll be transmitting that across this guy, which is all welded up and is attached to this bar here. So it'll help cement that to the rear of the chassis if there's side-to-side motion in the rear track. Yeah. Doesn't seem like much. What else is new here? Yeah, the way that the brake lines come out, I need to do something with that, form it. I guess it doesn't. I've rotated the brakes. I forget if I just rotated them or if I switched it left to right or something. But basically, this caliper was designed to be like up here on the back, and then the parking brake cable would be kind of aiming towards the front. But I wanted the look of having the caliper both lower and more inboard to the center of the car, and so I was able to maybe I just rotated it and swapped it this way, rotated 180. Bolted up fine, everything else is fine internally, but I do have to make this kind of weird 180-degree bend in the parking brake cable, which is from some other like Ford truck or something. And it's just that tight bend I need to worry about. I think if I bend it like this, and if I can like lubricate the inside or something, I think it'll clear the wheel just fine. And then I need to make a bracket, probably that goes up right there by the drive shaft, that allows these to snap in. And then I need to create a bar, probably out of something like this. Cut a section of this 1.5 by 1/2, and a few inch section, and then have like a slot here for the cable to come in on each side for the left and right rear, and then a singular bolt coming out of the middle that will attach to a shorter cable, which I don't know where I'm going to have that. I don't know if I have one from the Subaru or if I can scavenge a cable like that from somewhere. But then that cable has to go up to the actual parking brake lever, which I think is going to live somewhere down in here. Yeah, somewhere down in there, I think, because it'll be kind of out of the way. There's more room on this side with the transmission. It's something I could like reach down by my foot and enable it or disable it. I think that's where I'll put it. But we'll see. There's other places I could put it if I can find that intermediate cable, because then I can just run the one cable somewhere. And I want to reuse the Subaru parking brake lever just for nostalgia, but it could be mounted anywhere. What else was there? Bracketry down here for the shifter cable. I'm going to use this big red shifter cable here, and then the shifter itself is going to go up here. The plan is to put it up here along its side. Okay, and then kind of tight to the roof where it's not protruding into the headroom of getting in and out, but I could still like wrap my hand around the shift knob. I also don't want it to be too close to the front where I might have some displays. And looking at this again now, where I have this roof bar here, I don't know what you call this, headache bar. It's this bar is not as far forward as I remembered it being, so there's room up here for the digital displays, basically, and maybe even for thin ones, it could be right up against the bar here. But there's some room here that is, for other uses, it's already blocked from seeing out, so it wouldn't matter to have a thin section of displays up here, whether it's like one gauge thick, or the Nordskog setup might be thin enough to put on the front side. The Nordskog's also thin enough where I could, I might be able to put it somewhere up here. Yeah. Let's see. Anything else going on? So the plan is, wiring wise, still have the ECU up in that corner, up there, that part of the dash that's blocked from view anyway. It'll be away from the water, close to the engine, and hideable. And I could just run a few wires up to that. A few of those wires will come here to the controls, but then power will go back to, I think, the back side of this driver's seat. There's like a triangular area between the fuel tank and the back of the seat. I'd like to see if I can pack that full of relays and power distribution. I talked with Grok about the supporting the floor for the transparent floor, and one thing I had it doing all kinds of deflection calculations for the 1/4 inch Lexan, and I think what I'll need to do is bisect this long triangle, probably with just one of those pieces of chrome, 1/2 inch by 1.5. And if the main goal is for the passengers when they're in the car to be able to look down, forward looking down and see the road underneath them, the least amount of obstruction is if it's kind of like on edge and lined up this way. So from here to here, lined up where my finger is. So if I bisect it there, I don't think that the other ones are big enough issue where I have to bisect them, because I will have mounting brackets, maybe some like small angle channel or something like that will be supporting the Lexan. It's just this one large span in the middle. If I put a lot of weight, it might have a little too much deflection, and I don't want to mess up the floor. So one bisection on that side. Underneath, there might be some other bracketry going on just to mount the seats, but underneath the passenger seats, it's not that big a deal about the deflection issue, so I'm not going to worry about boxing that in, especially for that. It would only be for, you know, mounting brackets for the harnesses and the seat itself. Let's see. What else is here? So Lexan across the floor, Lexan across the tunnel, Lexan for the firewall area. Yeah. This is all just tacked in here still, so I can go in and finish welding those. Maybe brace it a little bit more. We'll have to see if that's going to be worthwhile. I might try to do something where I tie in the bottom, kind of reinforce the pedal area, because I could be, potentially putting a lot of force on the brake. So I want to make sure that those forces are accounted for and can distribute to some solid piece of the car pretty easily. So I'll have to see what I can come up with for that. It could be unconventional. It could be some sort of like singular bar that comes up and attaches to somewhere under the dash. It could be a bolt-up thing, something like that. Not sure how that's going to do. Yeah, we need to make some sort of foot panel over top of that, so my feet are not resting on all that. All those connections. I'll need to mount the remote reservoir somewhere. I'm not sure if it's going to be on the same... The plan was originally to have it on the same side as the ECU, so on the right side of the car. But if there's an area over here, I might want to keep this kind of clear just so you can see what's going on mechanically. But it needs to be higher than the master cylinders. So I think it's still going to be over there somewhere. And there wasn't quite enough room back behind the pedals. So going around here, I think I also noticed something not so great over here. Where was it? No, this is okay actually. See, this brake line, this parking brake line here needs to make that tight 180 and come back on the inside. I'd like it to go on the inside of the truck arm. And then this brake fitting is down here. It's facing upwards, which is fine because I want it to come up, and then it will also basically hug either the inside or the outside of the truck arm. Zip tied this guy up so he's not getting cramped in the way down here. Let's see, catch can. I'm going to use this catch can here that I got off of Amazon Vine, and then probably some sort of bracketry like this chrome shelf bracket, or like one of these brackets here. And then I think I'm going to mount that probably behind the air tank. There's like an area right here there's an area right here behind the air tank that is unused. So on the side here I could put the basically the coolant overflow. It's not a puke tank, but it's the overflow, but it's a would be the replenishing type. So yeah, feed in from the bottom, and it just vents to atmosphere, and there would be a plug on the top so that it could like overflow onto the ground or something, I guess, with maybe another dribble hose coming down to the ground. But normally I guess it would come up from the bottom, and then that way, when the coolant cools off, it can suck the excess back in through here. So it just needs to be a little taller than where this nipple is. That should also help get air out of the lines, I think. And just keep that topped up. I guess if there's nothing in that overflow, I can fill from here. But the tank also has a nice cap on the top, so I could reach in here and like somehow pour a small amount of fluid at a time. Fuel filling. Let's see, fuel filling. So I thought I was going to go with like these, it's like 1.5 inch aviation style fuel things, but then I couldn't find the right hose that I wanted. And so I ended up going with these boat versions. One drawback is I didn't want chrome. So these might end up getting painted or just left alone, but they are stainless. So that is nice that it's not going to corrode. The other ones were just aluminum. But this one has sort of like a keyed mechanism, so it doesn't look as cool and technical. But since we're in America, where there's like a lot of bad people, a lot of thieves and mischievous people at car shows and stuff, it's better if people can't like mess with it, like taking things off or stealing the cap or like dumping things in the tank. So this little bit of security here keeps most of the lazy miscreants from messing with my ride. It's also got a retainer, which is nice, so that if the other ones that were a little bit smaller and they say they're made for airplanes, it didn't have any way of retaining the cap. So if I took it off and like forgot it, that's like a $20 mistake, because I'd have to buy a whole new setup just to get the lid. And then it was a bit of a pain to try and rivet a chain thing into the side of the hose container. I guess I could have done like a pop rivet and then a chain like this to retain the other type of lid. But this one, anyway, I got 2 of these. The goal with 2 of these is like make it symmetric, because I'm trying to be big on symmetry here, even though it's not completely possible. I was going to have it somewhere on the roof, right about here. Originally I thought it was going to be like on the side, but this is actually like really thick, this C-pillar. So I'm not sure that I want to cut into it, and it has a bit more curve than other areas. So I think I'll just leave that alone, and then to be more unique, it'll be filled on the roof. And so this will come down. This is 2-inch hose, and I have some pipe coming in, aluminum pipe. I think I either got like a section of 2-inch pipe that I could weld, or maybe I went and got the 2 separate weldable filler caps that basically have its own screw cap, because I wasn't sure, if I go through with this or not. If I decide to not go through with this and not have the hose mounted because maybe it stinks or something, I could take that assembly off and just have like a cap here that's reachable from the side, so I don't have to reach all the way to the center to fill up the tank. And I could do that on both sides and have it capped off. So it leaves me a little bit of options, but because it's a 2-inch OD, I could take the cap off and still run a 2-inch hose down over top of it and just hose clamp it, even though there's some threads. So that leaves some options open for me for that. So I'll have to weld that onto the tank as well, probably around here, close to where I was going to have to pop a hole for that 8AN rollover valve. And I guess one of these will get used for the fuel return, but then the other one won't get used. That's how it is so far. Yeah. Let's see, is there anything else to talk through? Yeah, there was a little bit up here. So once I put the water pump back in, I'll go ahead and mock it up so that these guys are connected to the water pump, because it's got the new 16AN fittings. Route this hose so that it's out of the way realistically and not touching any belts or pumps or anything like that, nothing too hot. And then that's got a route down here, and then depending on where this angle comes in, where that hose end comes in, like right there, that's the swivel side. And so, and it's only like a 45 degree or a 60, it's not quite a 90. So it's nice that it's a more gentle bend, but I really need it to come like 90 degrees, nearly 90, come in here, and then the blue line will then swoop into here and be run mostly inside of this frame rail. Okay, and then back in around here, I think it's right after the B pillar, or anywhere after here actually, it'll pop back out. Okay, and then it can go diagonal a bit, kind of where it is right now, and then run up through this slot. So this slot right here, so the hose will run up through here, and either, probably not on top of here, but on the underneath side. So down here, under here, and then also under this one, and then basically snake its way straight back to the radiator. Okay, right there. And it'll do that on each side. I wanted to leave this flat area here, this little void right here without the hose in it. I wanted to leave that open for like storage, or future things that I forgot to put in. And then this will probably have some sort of decorative plate or something, just so that things aren't like falling and touching the battery. So I box that in with something. What else is there? I mean, I've been focusing mostly on the back 2/3 of the car for a while now, because there's just a lot of stuff to do that doesn't have to do with the engine, really. Yeah, I can't think of anything else right now. I mean, there are certainly things to fix, like this center seat bracket. It bothers me that this is kind of welded on crooked, so I might try to fix that somehow and adjust it. Maybe I can just break the welds on one side and twist it enough to realign it. It ended up getting welded crooked because of the holes in the seat were crooked, and I should have just been more willing to mess with the seat that's already had holes punched in it. Yeah, the seats need to be cleaned up. That'll be towards the end. Probably paint them some kind of color that complements what's going on, probably black. And then I have some EVA foam padding that's made for boats coming in. It's like a black with red diamond outlines, where it's been, I guess it's a multi-layer EVA foam, and it's made for like walking around the floors of boats. but I might stick that on the back side, and I think I have just enough to do like the back section here, just so that your back has like a little bit more, not so much comfort, but mainly to in case the car is really hot, you're not just laying back on a hot piece of metal. And then I have 2 more kayak cushions like this that are orange, that'll go in the passenger seats. Orange wasn't my first color pick, but I started talking to Grok about the my new love for the Sazabi Gundam build. So from the Gundam series, I guess it's like the bad guy, Char's. The character Char has this mobile suit, which is like a big super robot, but piloted by a human. But it looks like kind of looks like a lobster with its heavy armor and rounded curves. I had been going for some sort of like technical Gundam-esque either paint scheme or military style influence for the designs. Something very raw and mechanical. And some of the Gundam designs is where I came up with the design of the shock towers. Just, the extra angles in there and little holes and slots to make it look like it was from something more technical. Versus something that's like clean and swoopy or minimalistic. So definitely not a minimalistic thing. But one of the things that the Gundams have is the basically like the good guy robots. They have very angular panels with lots of chamfers. And one of the themes or the design languages of the quote-unquote bad guys in that series is that their mobile suits have curves, and this body has curves. So this kind of area here where it's kind of like it's got these swoopy curves, right? It's got that all on the doors. If I put the doors on, it's going to have some like curves to them. So rather than trying to dress that up or hide it or make that work with the theme of a Gundam, which has more of like hard angular lines and chamfers on a lot of things, started playing with the idea of it being red and using the color schemes off of some of the Gunpla builds. And so started playing out with some different color reds that I had on hand and Rust-Oleum spray, and kind of settled on this one. This is like a, what do they call this one? This is Rust-Oleum Merlot, like the wine. And right now it looks a bit red, but in some lights it looks brown, which is interesting. So maybe it's not quite red enough, but this could be one of the shades. And then one of the things about the nice Gunpla builds is that they have like 3 shades of red. And I don't know if I'd go with this cherry one, but they do have like a bright red, kind of like a darker brick red, and then something in between. And what they do is just pretty much make every panel that's next to another panel, it's like a slightly different color of those 3. And so it makes all the different panels really stick out, and it's kind of defined. I don't know how far I'll go with that, but it would be interesting to see, especially when I get a little bit closer to having the car back together, what those exterior color cues might look like with slightly different colors, shades of red, but it's like done on purpose and it's symmetric. And then having some, little decals on there that look kind of militaristic, where it's, like little warning signs and no step stencils and numbers and things like that. to an extent, right? But it would help piece it together rather than it looking like 3 different shades of red because somebody couldn't afford to get it all painted at once. It would look like it was done on purpose, some kind of purposeful intent. They also do a lot of airbrushing with the Gunpla to make it really pop. And then stencil lines where they carve in armor panel lines that weren't really there to make it look like there's access panels and gizmos and gadgetry going on. So that kind of stuff could be done with just a like a black vinyl striping that's done in a certain way to make it look like separate panels. And that's also kind of removable. So if I do like, I guess like a deep flat black, or I'm not sure what color I would go with, but some kind of pinstriping to make it look like there's separate panels, look like there's gaps in the panel. So that's quite a departure from the almond scheme I was going for earlier, but we'll see. We'll see how that looks. So, yep, a lot more to do. I think that's it for now.